are a number of shelters, both modular and expandable, as well as hard and soft-walled, that provide structures needed on a bare base to support billeting, shops, hangars, and storage. This video is designed to provide an in-depth look at the Tempur tent. In doing so, we will provide as much general information as possible about the tent itself and how it is used. We will also give a detailed description of the tent's equipment and components, step-by-step erection, and striking procedures.
The Tempur tent is a modular soft wall shelter designed for use in both the Harvest Eagle and Harvest Falcon bare base equipment packages. The tent's fabric is a synthetic material that is supported by an aluminum frame structure. When assembled, the tent resembles a portable hardback tent. Tempur is an acronym which stands for Tent Extendable Modular Personnel.
The tent's modular construction permits the creation of different types and sizes of facilities, so it can be used to house functions such as dining halls, medical facilities, latrines, shower-shave units, troop billeting, and shop facilities.
This video is designed to give an in-depth view of the Tempur tent. However, when working with this shelter in the field, TO 35E561 Tent Extendable Modular should be used to ensure proper procedures are followed during tent erection, tear down, and preparation for shipment.
The most common Tempur tent is the 32 by 20 foot personnel or administrative version commonly used for billeting. This version of the tent weighs about 1,200 pounds and when erected covers an area of 640 square feet. Its major components fall into three major groups: fabric, frame, and other components.
The major fabric components include the window section, end section, door section, and fly. The window and door sections are 8 feet wide, which is enough to cover one section of tent frame each. The tent fly keeps the tent cooler in summer by insulating the tent top from the sun and warmer in winter by holding in the heat. The fabric components come in either forest green or desert tan color, and they are designed for use in either desert, tropical, or temperate climates.
The frame, like the fabric, is modular, with each section being 8 feet wide. When 5 of these frame sections are locked together, they form a 32 by 20 foot tent frame. The major tent components include purlins, headers, and arches.
There's 2 more frame components that should be mentioned. They're the eave extenders and the ridge extenders. These extenders are placed on the eave and ridge of each 8-foot arch section to support the fly.
Not all of these components will be included with each Tempur tent. Vestibules and bump-through doors, for example, will most likely be found on kitchen and hospital facilities, but they are not required on a tent used for troop billeting. However, civil engineer personnel must be available to give technical assistance to using organizations if and when it is required. Therefore, engineer personnel must become knowledgeable with all Tempur tent components.
The tent liner provides insulation and a clean environment for the inside of the tent. The liner can be taken out of the tent and cleaned as needed. The insulated flooring isolates the interior of the tent from cold, even when it's erected on top of snow.
The fabric plenums provide a means of ducting cold or heated air throughout the tent from the external heating and air conditioning unit. A vestibule is a covered entranceway or passageway which provides environmental protection into or between tents.
Electrical accessories, such as lights and outlets, are controlled by circuit breakers and switches on an electrical control box. Modesty curtains can be hung between sections to provide privacy.
Lightweight swinging bump-through doors provide easy access into or out of the tent. These doors may also be secured open or closed and are equipped with glass windows. Before we get into tent erection, let's talk safety. During a bare base bed-down operation, safety is a prime concern. Injured personnel and damaged equipment due to poor safety practices are hard to replace in this type environment and could cause mission failure. Therefore, to point out important safety procedures, 2 signs will be used.
The first is a warning sign. This sign will appear during any procedure or practice which, if not correctly followed, could result in personal injury or loss of life. The second is a caution sign. This sign will appear during any procedure or practice which, if not strictly observed, could result in damage to or destruction of equipment.
Be sure to keep these signs in mind as we move on to erecting the tent.
The first step in erecting the tent is site selection and preparation. Most of this work should have already been accomplished prior to the erection team's arrival. However, the erection team should still check the site to ensure that the site is level, is free from rocks, roots, or broken branches, has good drainage, and is sheltered from high winds when possible.
After preparing the site, move the tent to the site and unload it. Tempur tents are packaged in two types of containers. The Rowley box contains 1 tent, and the Brooks & Perkins box contains 4 tents. As the tent is unpacked, a quick inventory should be taken and the components should be inspected for breakage, holes, tears, broken stitching, separated seams, mildew, and corrosion.
As the unpacking, inventory, and inspection process is taking place, caution should be taken not to step on any of the components because the tent material and lightweight frame components could be damaged. After the components are inspected, they should be laid out around the site in the order they'll be used during erection.
After all the components are properly laid out, start assembling the frame by removing an arch from the frame bundle. Check the arch to ensure that all the locking pins are hanging free. Now, place the arch flat on the ground, loosen the strap, and spread out the center section. When working near the frame hinges, be careful to avoid pinching your hands or fingers in the hinges as they are opened. Do not hold the frame by a hinge.
After the ridge joint is opened, align the holes in the arch with the holes in the ridge joint and insert the locking pin. When aligning the holes in the arch and ridge joint, or when handling the tent frame, try not to twist or turn it because the lightweight frame could be damaged. Once the arch is pinned, swing out the 2 arch legs and start to install the header.
The header is installed by slipping the header flanges on each side of the arch with the slant end of the header facing up. Now align the holes on both ends of the header with the holes in the arch and insert the locking pins. The remaining arches should now be assembled using the same procedures.
When at least 2 arches are assembled, they may be connected together with purlins. Purlins are 8 feet long and have tabs on each end. To connect the arches with the purlins, line the tab in the end of the purlin with the boss in the arches. Insert the tabs on the purlin ends into the boss in each arch, and rotate the purlin 90 degrees or until the diagonal brace on the purlin lines up with the slot in the arch.
Once the tab in the end of the brace and the slot located 2 feet down from the arch joint are aligned, insert the tab into the slot and rotate the tab handle 90 degrees to lock the tab in place. The tab handle should then be locked toward the arch. Do not lock the handle toward the diagonal brace. If the handle does not lock easily, rotate it 180 degrees and try to lock it again towards the arch.
It takes 5 purlins to connect 2 arches, which makes up an 8-foot section of frame. All of the purlins are installed as previously shown. However, the ridge purlins are installed with every other diagonal brace rotated to the left and right sides of the ridge. The eave purlins are installed with the diagonal braces pointing toward the base of the tent, and the base purlins are installed with the diagonal braces pointing toward the eave. To add sections, continue these procedures until the required number of frame sections have been connected.
After the frame sections are assembled, the tent fabric can be installed. It takes 2 people to place a fabric section on the frame. With 1 person on each side of the fabric section, locate the larger grommets at the center of each side of roof section. After the grommets are located, carry the roof section to the center of the frame and place the larger grommets over the spindles at each ridge joint. After the first roof section is in place, install the rest of the sections on the frame using the same procedures.
If stoves are to be used, remember to keep the stovepipe openings on one side of the ridge and placed so that when the liner and fly are in place, the openings all line up. Now that the tent sections are in position on the frame, the tent sections can be joined with laces and grommets called beckets.
Lace the tent sections on one side of the tent from the ridge to the eave. Don't lace both sides at this time. The other side will be laced after the fly is installed. Before starting to lace, place the eave grommet with lace over the eave spindle. This helps make the lacing easier by lining up the laces and grommets.
Then, move to the ridge and locate the first lace and grommet next to the ridge joint. Insert the first and second laces through the first and second grommets. Then insert the second lace through the loop in the first lace and pull down tight. Now insert the third lace through the third grommet and then through the loop in the second lace and pull down tight. Continue to lace the tent together from ridge to eave, closing the Velcro weather strip as you go. Upon reaching the last lace at the eave, take the next to last lace through the loop in the last lace. Pull the next to last lace back towards the ridge and tie it in a half-hitch knot.
The next step is to install the end wall sections. To install the end wall, place the grommet at the end wall peak over the ridge spindle and the end wall eave grommet with laces over the eave spindles. Then lace both end walls from ridge to eave and tie off the laces with a half-hitch knot at the eaves.
After both end walls have been installed, it's time to install the fly. First, install the ridge and eave extenders. These extenders are installed by placing them over the spindles on the ridge and eave joints.
Align the holes at the base of the spindles and extenders. Then, secure the extenders by inserting the attached hitch clip pin through the base of the extenders and spindles. The leg extending from the base of the eave extenders is installed toward the tent ridge.
Next, lay the fly sections out alongside the tent. The fly sections are 16 feet wide and will cover 2 tent sections. If the M1941 stove is to be used, make sure the stovepipe openings are located to line up with the openings in the tent sections.
Becket lace the fly sections together while they are laying on the ground. As with the tent sections, close the weather flap as the fly is becket laced.
After the fly sections are laced together, roll the fly from both sides to the center grommets, which are located every 8 feet along the center of the fly.
Place a person at each center grommet and pick it up. Carry the fly to the tent ridge by walking along the frame arches on the side of the tent that has not been laced together.
Place the fly center grommets over the ridge extender spindles and install a hitch clip pin through the hole in the spindle to secure the fly.
With the fly secured to the ridge extenders, unroll it to the eaves. The side of the tent that has not been laced will be laced and the weather flap closed as the fly is unrolled. The fly is secured to the eave extender spindles using the same procedures as when it was secured at the ridge.
Once the fly is installed, secure the guy ropes to the fly. A guy rope and tent slip are secured to each fly grommet by threading the guy line through one end of the tent slip and then through the webbing loops of the tent fly. The line is then threaded back through the other end of the tent slip and tied in an overhand knot.
A guy line and tent slip are also secured to each eave and ridge extender by threading the guy line through one side of the tent slip and then through the brace and around the pole of the ridge or eave extender. The line is then threaded back through the other side of the tent slip and tied in an overhand knot at the end. To eliminate the possibility of tripping, clear the lines by tucking them into the rolled up side of the fabric of the tent.
After the fly is in place and secure, it's time to raise one side of the frame. First, place the rolled up side wall fabric between the tent roof and fly to expose the frame joints and hinges and to avoid pinching the fabric. Then position 2 people at each eave joint. Locate the locking pin and ensure it is hanging free.
Then locate the locking hole in the arch and make sure it is free of debris. Now step in next to the eave joint. Place one hand below the eave joint of the arch and one hand on the eave purlin. To prevent damage to the frame, do not twist or turn it. When lifting the tent frame, start in the correct squatting position and use your legs to lift, avoiding back injury. On command, lift straight up to shoulder height.
Hold the frame at shoulder height with one hand and pull the leg of the frame in with the other hand. Now, place the weight of the frame on the base plate of the arch leg. Align the holes of both the eave joint and arch leg and insert the locking pin in place. Use the purlin flap with hook and pile fasteners to secure the fabric to the frame at the eave purlin. It's easier to install the internal components with the frame only partially erect. Therefore, the other side of the tent will not be raised until after the installation of the internal components.
The single-ply floor is the first component to be partially installed. This is done to keep the liner clean while it's being put up. Before installing the floor, check the ground to ensure that it is free of erection debris and relatively level. Sharp objects or depressions can damage the tent floor. When installing the floor, install one 8-foot section at a time. Use the tie tapes to secure the floor to the raised side of the tent frame. Then smooth the floor out and towards the low side of the tent, covering all the exposed ground. The floor will be secured on the low side once it is raised.
The electrical system should be partially installed next.
The system consists of a power distribution box, convenience outlets, light support strap assemblies and lights, and the wiring needed to tie everything together. Install as much of the electrical cable as possible so that it will be located between the liner and tent fabric when the tent is complete. Place the distribution box on the floor to the left of the tent entrance. Route the cables up the end wall. As with all tent electrical cables, allow for a little slack and wrap all cables around the header at least once to prevent strain. Strain on the cables can damage them.
Do not connect electrical power to the distribution box until all the cables and fixtures are installed. Now install the light fixture cables and convenience outlets. The next internal component to be installed is the tent liner. To keep the liner clean, don't unwrap and unfold it until it's inside the tent.
Each section of liner has 3 straps with clips and D-rings. These straps and clips and D-rings are placed around a ridge purlin and clipped together. There are a number of straps on the liner that are used to tie the liner to the header and arch frame. Use bow knots to secure the liner to the frame.
Then, push the light fixture support straps through the liner and use the Velcro edges to connect the liner sections. If the tent is going to be connected to an external heating or air conditioning unit, a plenum will need to be installed. The plenum is an air distribution system. The end wall plenum attaches to an external heating or air conditioning unit through a ventilation sleeve in the end wall and liner. The extendable plenum sections are 16 feet long and are attached to the tent frame header with tie tapes. To secure the plenum, run the tie tapes up through the slots in the liner and tie them to the header using a bow knot.
To extend the plenum, remove the end cap and attach another plenum using the Velcro sewn to each end of the plenum sections. At this point, it's time to raise the other side of the tent. This is accomplished by following the same procedures used to raise the first side. When lifting the tent, personnel should remember to start in a squatting position and use their legs to avoid back injury.
Once the frame is raised and locked in place, roll down the sides, Secure the fabric at the eave purlin. Finish lacing the roof and end sections. Secure the weather seal flap. Attach the fabric to the base purlin. And pull the sod cloth under the base purlins and end wall sections. After securing the fabric on the newly raised side of the frame, finish spreading the floor inside the tent. Then connect the remaining floor sections. Finish connecting and securing the floor to the base purlins. And push the floor under the door sills.
At this point, cables from the electrical outlets, lights, and main power source can be connected to the distribution box. For safety reasons, this should only be accomplished by a qualified electrician.
In some cases, a vestibule may be needed as a passageway or as an entryway. It may be connected to an end wall or any doorway. If a vestibule is required, it can be erected using the following procedures.
Unwrap the vestibule fabric and frame. After spreading out the vestibule fabric, locate the central grommets at one end of the vestibule fabric and the vestibule adapter and align them.
After aligning the central grommets, Beckett lays the vestibule fabric to the adapter, starting at the ridge and working towards each eave. Upon reaching the eaves, tie the lacing off with a half-hitch knot. Now, assemble all three vestibule frame sections by placing insert posts on the frame legs into holes in the vestibule header and placing a hitch pin in each side to lock them together. After the three frames are assembled, carefully place one underneath the vestibule adapter so that its three spindles come through the grommets in the fabric and adapter. Secure the spindles in place by inserting hitch clip pins through holes in the spindles on top of the fabric.
Cover the ridge to eave lacing with the weather seal flaps. Next, carefully bring the second frame section under the fabric and place the frame spindles through the three grommets in the middle of the vestibule fabric. Secure the spindles to the roof of the vestibule with hitch clip pins and lean the vestibule against the door opening.
After installing the last frame, extend the vestibule. To support the frame, install two guy lines to the eave spindles of the last frame section and stake and tie them to the ground. To complete the vestibule, tie the inside fabric tapes to the frame. Finish lacing the fabric to the adapter and close the weather seal flap. Install a 12-inch steel pin in all vestibule frame base plates and tighten up the lines.
If needed, a single-ply floor with an insulated floor over it can be installed in the vestibule. At this point, the tent should be secured to the ground using stakes and guy lines. Place a 24-inch wooden stake approximately 10 feet out from the side and ends of the tent at each eave extender. Then connect a guy line from each eave extender to a stake. Now connect a guy line from each grommet at the edge of the fly to a stake. After the guy lines and stakes are all in place, drive a 12-inch steel pin through the hole in each frame footing into the ground and tighten up all guy lines.
Because of the function being housed, some temper tents may require bump-through doors. Bump-through doors can be installed in either a vestibule or door section as well as an end section. To install bump-through doors in a vestibule or door section, stand the doors up and lock them in a closed position. Loosen the set screws at the top of the doors using the attached Allen wrench. Remove the door extenders from the doors, and then remove the arch from the vestibule frame. Insert the arch post in the holes of each side of the top of the double doors, and tighten the set screws with the Allen wrench. Then, lift the kick plate so that it rests against the doors and carry the frame into the position at the vestibule.
Now place the 3 grommets in the vestibule fabric over the door arch spindles and press the Velcro strips on the arch and door frame together. To finish installing the vestibule doors, tie the fabric to the door frame, ensure the door is vertical, lower the kick plates, and secure the vestibule with guy lines and stakes. To install the bump-through doors in an end wall section, unzip the fabric door, roll it up, and tie it to the inside. Disconnect the Velcro holding the screen in place. Roll up the screen and tie it in place. Stand the doors up and lock them in the closed position.
Then, loosen the set screw on top of both doors. Place the door's extender in its lowest position and raise both kick plates. Place the door frame between the end wall and liner with the door frame vertical and in line with the door opening. Make sure the olive drab colored side is located outside and the light green colored side is inside the tent. To complete installing the doors in the end wall, raise the extender flange to wrap around the header and lock it in place with the set screws. Lower the kick plates. Use the Velcro fasteners to fasten the screen door and to seal the fabric around the door frame.
Some temper tent configurations may require modesty curtains. To install the curtain, lay it out flat on the tent floor and straighten out all the wires. Separate the liner at the eave purlin and place the curved hook through the liner and around the eave purlin next to the frame on both sides of the tent. To suspend the curtain, locate the 2 short cables with hooks near the center of the long cable. Separate the liner above these cables. Insert the cables through the liner and hang them on the header. Then close the liner around the wires. To finish installing the curtain, find the tabs on both sides of the curtain. Open the liner next to the tabs and insert the tabs closing the liner around them.
In colder climates, the insulated floor should be installed over the single-ply floor. Unwrap and spread the floor so that it is flat and smooth. Lay 1 8-foot section at a time and connect the floor sections together with the Velcro strips on the sides. Tent doors can be located in the center of an end wall or on either side of a door section. A door may also be laced into the end of a vestibule. These doors can be opened by unzipping them on either or both sides. They can also be rolled up and tied out of the way with tie tapes. A screen door is located inside the fabric outer door. It's fastened on both sides with Velcro and can also be rolled up and tied out of the way.
Tent windows are made in 3 layers, a rain flap on the outside, a clear plastic window in the middle, and a screen on the inside. The rain flaps and plastic windows are held closed by Velcro fasteners. They both are held open with tie tapes, and they must be rolled up towards the inside to keep rain from being trapped within the folds. To fully close the rain flap, the clear window must first be unrolled and secured.
The temper tent has both peak and roof vents. The peak vent is located at the peak of the end wall. This peak vent can be opened or closed by lines which may be tied to the eave extenders on either side of the vent. The desert and tropical versions of the temper tent have vents in the roof sections. These vents are controlled with lines from inside the tent. Tent striking procedures are just the reverse of the erection procedures. To keep from damaging tent components, handle them carefully during striking and repacking activities. To make repacking the tent easier, place like items together as they are removed. Make sure the electrical system is disconnected from the external power source before starting to strike the tent.
Start striking the tent by closing all doors and windows on all the fabric sections and release tension on all guy lines. If the tent has a vestibule attached, it should be removed at this time. Next, remove the guy lines from the stakes and pull the steel pins from the tent frame base plates. Move inside the tent, and if the tent has an insulated floor, clean, fold, and remove it. Then remove and repack the lights and power distribution panel.
Untie the liner and single-ply floor from the base purlins. Continue striking the tent by unlacing all Beckett laces up to the eave and untying the liner from the tent frame. After the tent fabric is unlaced, roll the fabric up on both sides and lay it on top of the tent under the fly.
With the tent fabric out of the way, remove all the electrical outlets from the tent legs. Now, the plenum and liner can be removed. If the tent has a single-ply floor, it can be removed after all the internal components have been removed.
Now the tent can be lowered. The tent should be lowered one side at a time, reversing the procedures used when it was raised. Using at least 2 people per arch leg, remove the pin from the eave joint and lower one side to the ground. Lower the other side of the tent using the same procedures. With the tent on the ground, remove the fly and ridge and eave extenders.
Once the fly and extenders are out of the way, finish unlacing the tent fabric and remove the fabric sections from the frame. To finish striking the tent, disassemble the frame by unlocking and removing the purlins, removing the headers, and unpinning and folding the arches. There are many things to remember when repacking and preparing the tent for shipment.
2 of these are agriculture or customs inspection and tent reconstitution requirements. The first step in preparing the tent for shipment is to prepare it to pass agriculture and customs inspections when it crosses international borders. This can easily be accomplished by ensuring that all components are cleaned before they're repackaged. If necessary, use soap and water to clean the components and make sure they're dry before they're packed. Before placing the components in their packing containers, the inside of these containers should be sprayed using a can of insect spray.
As with the component containers, the shipping container should also be sprayed before it is packed. At some point in time, the tent will be returned to a pre-positioning location in the United States or overseas. At that time, it will go through a reconstitution procedure to repair or replace damaged and missing components. You, as the user, can assist in this procedure by taking an inventory and inspecting the components as they're being prepared for shipment. Then make a list of all damaged or missing components and place it in the shipping container for use by the reconstitution team.
As you've seen, the Temper Tent is a modular soft wall shelter designed for use in both the Harvest Eagle and Harvest Falcon Bear Base equipment packages. Its modular construction permits the creation of different types and sizes of facilities, so it can be used to house functions such as dining halls, medical facilities, latrines, troop billeting, and shop facilities. This video has also provided step-by-step procedures for erecting and striking a temper tent. By now you should feel more comfortable with your ability to rapidly and safely employ the temper tent as part of a bear base system.
Construction of a bear base can be a tough job, particularly if you're not prepared to perform the tasks required. This video has given you an in-depth look at the temper tent. Armed with this information, each of you should feel more confident and be better prepared to meet the challenge of a bear base bed down. The ability of each individual in a prime beef unit to perform duties effectively and as rapidly as possible after arriving at a bear base location is an absolute must if we are to meet that challenge.